Hello and welcome to Redpill Rundown. Disclaimer that this video contains discussions of viewpoints that may be deemed by many people as controversial, of which I am not associated. Large tech corporations which appear to have left-wing bias have begun censoring conservative and anything to the right of those material and persons that they consider to be associated with 1984-style wrongthink. I suppose this includes 2 of my videos so far, and possibly this one as well, which is why you should be watching this video on BitChute instead of YouTube, since I don't think this video will stay on YouTube for very long, not to mention my channel as a whole. Anyways, one should combat this, in part, by occasionally looking into what may be considered forbidden or controversial, in order to expand one's horizons and make determinations for oneself as to what ideas should be worth considering. With that in mind, one very controversial book is Siege, a collection of newsletter writings from the 1980s written by James Mason, who was historically associated with various National Socialist movements in the United States. Additionally, today we'll be covering the concept of accelerationism as a whole, of which this book is often associated. Don't feel like listening to over 20 hours of an audiobook or actually reading? No worries, because I did that for you. So here's your quick rundown on Siege and accelerationism. James Mason is a National Socialist within the United States, born in Ohio in 1952, and was particularly active from the late 1960s to the 1980s, and was a member of the American Nazi Party under Commander Rockwell, until Rockwell's assassination in 1967, the National Socialist White People's Party, the National Socialist Liberation Front via Joseph Tomasi, whose name was inspired by the Vietnamese organization National Liberation Front, and the National Socialist Movement, among others. From 1980 to 1986, he wrote Siege, which was a newsletter for the NSLF, which was later collected and made into a book. In this book, he starts by giving a background of himself and how he became a National Socialist, includes quotes ranging from Adolf Hitler to communists throughout, and talks about revolution through armed struggle, National Socialism and related concepts, a critique of American conservatism, the system, some recommendations for revolting against the modern world, and Universal Order, which was a new organization he created as part of a collaboration with Charles Manson, who he corresponded with while Manson was in prison, though they never met in person. The connection and admiration of Charles Manson and the Manson family killings, among other killings at that time, resulted in other National Socialists distancing themselves from James Mason. On one hand, James Mason did advocate for violent rebellion against the US government in many different ways, and was particularly hateful of the police while at the same time reminding his readers that they are not omniscient. But also at times wrote that the outright rebellion was foolish and doomed to fail, instead advocating to drop out of the system, economically and otherwise, to help cause societal collapse by not paying taxes as one example. He spoke out against political parties, stating that the current political system does not allow for real significant change, and instead he stated that the current state necessitated a resistance movement, which he thought was the most general term to describe what he advocated for. He advocated for very small groups or even lone wolves to avoid being infiltrated by enemies. He also mentioned women as being needed in the movement, stating that while women should not be put in uniforms and given the same role as men, they can, quote, make the most excellent fanatics, but they have to be properly motivated and led, end quote, and that there is something wrong with organizations that lack significant female numbers. He states that National Socialists do not have to be German, as he is not German, and National Socialism is a philosophy that originated in Germany, just as someone can be Roman Catholic without being Italian. This is one crazy world we're living in, and it often feels as though the rate at which society decays and grows stranger and more foreign to us increases at an ever-rapid rate. Some people now advocate to accelerate this degeneration, to sooner see the collapse of such a society in order to build up something new and better in its place. This, in a general sense, is the idea of accelerationism. If one was an accelerationist with right-wing beliefs, they would vote for the most extreme left-winger, and the opposite would be true of a left-wing accelerationist. Using the United States as an example, one might argue voting for Bernie Sanders or another Democrat, or vote for Trump in 2020 as he appears to radicalize the left, which in turn radicalizes the right, possibly accelerating and heightening the political divide among the population. If your car gets damaged, at what point do you stop replacing parts and just start over with a new car? Some may think the collapse is inevitable and the system is beyond repair. Some may wish to prevent it and hit the brakes. Some may want to keep the status quo, and some now desire to accelerate. That's your quick rundown. Links in the description. See you guys later.